everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today is a review day, actually first impressions and review and unboxing of Guerlain's L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Toilette. There you have it. So let's unbox this one immediately. Put a little cream under there to give it the right angle. A little Chanel cream snuck into a Guerlain review, of course. If it wouldn't, it would be bad. Let's open it and get straight to the first impression. So check out the little purple background to match the, well, doesn't really match it totally, but we have like a purpley vibe going on here, and I'm all into purple. Purple is one of my favorite colors, purple and orange. I like navy blue and gold as well, but purple, and a special type of intense orange. But anyway, so this is supposed to give us these purpley vibes and feelings. Now, a lot of my subscribers and followers really like Guerlain, and a lot of you like L'Instant de Guerlain, right? And a lot of you have been asking me to review it. So I oblige. The time has come to review L'Instant de Guerlain, the Eau de Toilette. There you go. This is, as most of you already know, probably, well, for those of you who love L'Instant de Guerlain already know that this is not the original bottle that this perfume was released in back in, what was it, 2003 or 2005? 2003 to be exact. So I have spoken to a couple of Guerlain representatives at the Guerlain stands, and quite a few of them did tell me that well, there's a strategy behind minimizing the bottles and kind of bringing it all back to as few designs of bottles as possible, and that is basically to save money, but also to simplify the selection. So when people come in, they like the smell that they like, they just purchase it, and basically almost all the bottles are the same. Now, Guerlain has a very huge variety of fragrances and fragrance families and groups of fragrances, but their choice to reduce certain original designs of bottles, like L'Instant bottle was, back to this, what Guerlain designed for Napoleon's Josephine bottle, the B bottle. I mean, I love this bottle, so for me it's okay. I do know that quite a few people have said that since L'Instant has been bottled in this bottle, the smell has also changed. We're not going to get into that because I do not have here on hand the old bottle with the 2003 liquid in it. So we're just going to focus on what we can find today, more or less, on the market, right? So we're going to spray this one. Plastic stopper. Put it to the side. This is 100 milliliter, by the way, frosted glass. And because I'm sweaty, it's all sticky now. Gross. Okay, let's do it. 3 sprays. Okay, first impression tells me, oh, 80s. I don't know why. I really don't know why. And very, very artificial, but I mean, it's synthetic, right? There's a lot of synthetic there. But I have to say, it's immediately very Guerlain to me, because my nose is very, very, I mean, you know, gosh, I live surrounded by perfumes all the time, so my nose is very, very fine-tuned to certain things. I immediately cut through the entire fragrance, and I'm in the bottom notes already, and I feel the Guerlain vanilla. And I say this, by the way, let's bring in Shalimar, the Eau de Parfum. This is the refill for the metal containers, which are now discontinued, and I'm still trying to hunt down the Eau de Parfum metal container, the right used metal container. It's kind of hard to find good ones. So that's why mine is still naked. My bottle is still naked. I do love that metal container, so that's why I purchased these, just in case I find a metal container, because these are still in production. Anyway, the intense Shalimar vanilla, that's the Guerlain vanilla. Samsara, also been rebottled. This is the older bottle. Also has a particular Guerlain vanilla in the dry down. So this was like the cameo appearances of these little guys. Off they go. They'll be back soon probably. This one has the vanilla too. And it is delicious. I love that the vanilla is in there. It's much lighter than the Shalimar vanilla, or in general the entire Shalimar composition. But nevertheless, it's very Guerlain to me. Very, 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 very Guerlain to me. What Guerlain tried to do here, and this is something I'm going to read quickly because it's fascinating to note in the description back in the day of the L'Instant de Guerlain. It says, the new Guerlain perfume for the first time contains magnolia. This delicate and complicated perfume is in harmony with the citrus honey note, which can be scented from the top all the way to the bottom notes. This is an innovative perfume composition built like a double olfactory pyramid. And this is something that we're going to get to because it is an interesting concept, but will L'Instant deliver this concept fully as described by the brand? The perfume opens with fresh citrus notes, mandarin and bergamot, as one fragrant composition, while the other pyramid gives out the shine of white flowers, magnolia, ylang-ylang, and sambac jasmine. The sensuality comes later with vanilla, benzoin, and musk, which leave magical, intimate trace. Eau de Toilette has a limited version of the fragrance with iris in the center. This is the millésime edition, which we're not reviewing here. While the regular release, which is this one, has an apple sweets nuance. But here's the twist. The L'Instant de Guerlain that we have here is an Eau de Toilette, right? It's not the Eau de Parfum, but still, it's as if they are the same, and this duality of the pyramid, of the double pyramid, it kind of, you know, goes to show that we're talking about the Eau de Parfum as opposed to the Eau de Toilette. So what is fascinating to note is that because Eau de Toilette came out in 2005, 2 years after the Eau de Parfum, there's also a switch and change. It's still Maurice Roussel is the perfumer, but there's a switch and change in the ingredients, if you may, but in a way that they are used to kind of portray the opposite. Within the same, strange, within the same pyramid form, they're showing us the opposite. So what does this mean? That actually we have, instead of the red apple that is in the top note of the Eau de Parfum, we have a green apple here. Then we have black currant, grapefruit, and bergamot, as opposed to the mandarin orange and the red apple in the Eau de Parfum. Then we have magnolia, lily of the valley, gardenia, neroli, and jasmine in the mid notes, while we have magnolia, ylang-ylang, jasmine, and iris in the mid notes of the Eau de Parfum. In the Eau de Toilette, simply listed amber in the base notes, honey, or white honey, vanilla, benzoin, amber, and musk listed in the base notes of the Eau de Parfum. Now, I treat, honestly, in this case, I know this is a bit bizarre, but I treat them as the same, the Eau de Parfum and the Eau de Toilette, even though the ingredients are listed as different. Yes, L'Instant has, the Eau de Toilette has this powerful lily of the valley touch to it, but I still sense out the vanilla. I still sense out, even though it's not listed, I still sense out a very powerful Guerlain, classic Guerlain type of vanilla. Also the iris, even though it's not listed here. Hints of honey, even though they're not listed here. It's as if there's like a hidden code, a hidden language within the whole context of this fragrance that, as hard as they try to separate the Eau de Parfums from the Eau de Toilettes, and yes, they are different, apart from the Lily of the Valley, which is a very particular type of, it gives a very particular type of aroma, smell to a perfume, I would still say that the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum are maybe the key to understanding what Guerlain meant by describing the Eau de Parfum when they state that we have this double olfactive pyramid. And I would say, I mean, it's bizarre, really, to... just the concept, think about it. To deliver something that is extremely warm in the eau de parfum concentration, and then trying to do the opposite, cooler, whiter, fresher version of it into the toilette, but still giving it an amber base, that is very bizarre to me. It is, in a way, it's like saying, okay, we're going to do it different, but it's going to stay the same. There's still going to be the warm dry down. We're not going to list any of the vanilla. We're not going to list any of the musks. But still, to me, the musks are there. I mean, the vanilla is there. The honey is there. It's just that particular extra addition, which they state is there for the gardenia. It's as if it's not there, really, because at times you feel it, at times you don't. Why? Because the lily of the valley is there. And the lily of the valley is what covers up everything else at moments. And then at other times, it allows the other ingredients to, the other smells to come out. And this is interesting to note. A lot of people are stating that they cannot stand the green apple in this one. I don't get the green apple. I don't even get the red apple, which is stated to be in the eau de parfum. I get the lily of the valley. And I get the lily of the valley battling for its life against all other ingredients. And the lily of the valley can be a very poisony green smell. And actually, the lily of the valley is what, together maybe with the magnolia in this case, what gives us the illusion of a gardenia. My favorite gardenia being, of course, Chanel's gardenia. In its eau de parfum form, that's one of those cases where the Les Exclusives did good by themselves, by them their perfumes, meaning that the gardenia in eau de parfum form is one of those rare Chanel Les Exclusives that smells better to me than the eau de toilette gardenia, its predecessor. Having smelled so often in my life natural gardenias, you realize why. You understand when you smell perfumes that are called gardenia or that list gardenia in their ingredients, you understand why. I mean, not why, but you sniff out that it's not really gardenia what is in those fragrances. You understand that it's a synthetic, it's like a copycat of a gardenia. It's trying to be a gardenia, but it's not. And Chanel's Gardenia Eau de Parfum comes really close to the actual natural gardenia. It copies it very well. Here, L'Instant does not really... The only thing that maybe resembles a bit of the gardenia is a hint of magnolia, which now slowly, shyly is starting to pop out from the background as I'm smelling it. Magnolia, to me, magnolias have a green type of scent. The real gardenia has a very poisonous green smell, which is delicious. A lot of people don't like the way gardenias smell because they are so overpowering. But I think the magnolia does the trick here in rendering the effect of a gardenia. Perhaps with that honey added. And perhaps the honey is used as an ingredient to trick you, because the way it's blended with the magnolia, it does give an effect of a gardenia. And now that could be the case. But that is a type of trick that Guerlain uses, which I don't mind. I actually like it quite a bit. The illusion, because perfumes are magic, to me at least. They are like magic tricks and magic formulas. They create an environment in which you get to dream, you get to unlock certain patterns inside of your memory, you get to experience past lives, or you get to travel just with your imagination to other worlds. And what Guerlain always really does very well, in my personal opinion, is it creates a beautiful background tapestry, if you may, on which you can always dream. So that's why I went that extra mile to create a purple background, to create that tapestry for us, because it's like, I don't know for who of you really are into cartoons or not, but in the 80s in particular, nowadays everything is digitalized. As perfumery, nowadays everything is synthetic. Not much natural stuff left there. So in the 80s, cartoons, would be actually still hand-drawn. It was the beginning of the digital era, but cheaper produced cartoons, let's say He-Man or She-Ra or Thundercats, they would have actually hand-painted backdrops onto which the cells would be placed with the movement of the characters. Those hand-painted backdrops were always so detailed and incredible. The colors would be popping. The abstraction of some of them was, I mean, it was really an art form. And they would create that whole backdrop, that entire frame that would frame the cartoon and would give you a feel to it. And this is what Guerlain is really good at with perfumes. Their backgrounds are always very rich and textured, so that they are allowed, or they can allow themselves to put in the forefront relatively simple ingredients, as is the apple or the citrus or the mandarin, but then in the background there's something very deep and very, very intense. And so those contrasts, to me, is the power of Guerlain. This is where Guerlain is always master. With their fragrances. They manage to play with the superficial and the deep, and they constantly balance those out, that you have to fall in love with their perfumes. They're not so easy to wear always, because you have to be in that mood. You have to be in that swing, or yeah, you have to be in a swingy type of mood. You got to swing back and forth between the two extremes, and you know, you're not always in that psychological mood. Sometimes you're very linear. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just want to feel safe and secure, and you want to follow that one line throughout the day. You just want to get through that day without complications. But then there are those other days, which mostly happens to me, when I am all over the place, and I like to begin maybe with a nice refreshing smell in the morning, and then but then I want the drama. I want intensity. I love to live every day as intensely as I can. So so the Guerlain kind of background, the tapestry, darling, matches very well my mood. So I should be using more Guerlain perfumes to think of it than I actually do. But how can one do so if one is so in love with their Chanels? It's hard. It's hard to kind of, for other perfumes to punch their way through and find their space, find their place within that short amount of space that I can offer to other fragrances, really, because it's hard. You know, whenever I discover a perfume, I really want to live with it, and I want to get to know it as good as I can before I actually can deliver a real verdict, or before I can say what it really means to me, you know. So that's why it's always really tricky to also do first impressions. And that is why, for the first time ever, I'm really going to actively stop the video here, and I will continue filming after a couple of hours have passed, and after I have had the chance to experience this one to its fullest dry down, so that I can deliver for you the best review possible for now. So let's see how this one will smell in a couple of hours' time. See ya. And surprise, we're back in a totally new background. Why did I add this new background? This is actually Jeremy Scott for Adidas from back in, I don't know, 2013 or 14. Love this shirt. But these colors, now that this one has developed more on my skin, I think this matches more the fragrance. The fragrance does look more peachy, rosy than it does purple, even though the tag is purple and the box itself is super purple, a royal purple with gold. But the actual liquid itself has more of this pattern going on. So I kind of thought it better to put this for the dry down bit of the video, for the dry down bit of the review of the video. So around 3 hours have passed, and I haven't reapplied. It's still there. It's very mellow now after 3 hours. So it's not that I can't say it has a really huge lifespan on my skin, at least. So the longevity maybe tops 5 hours, depending how richly you apply it. It's not so powerful, but it does definitely become more creamy with time, and it does remind me a little bit of the Allure dry down. It definitely has some Samsara in its DNA as well. What is so strange to me is that they don't list sandalwood here, and Samsara does have sandalwood. But there's something similar about them. Something in the way that they, I would call it like a milkified. If you let's say if you were to dip the musks and the benzoin and whatever else is in the dry down here into milk. It creates kind of like a milky version of it. With iris dust and vanilla subtones, which are typical to Guerlain. So that's something that it feels like we got the milk in there with the powdery tones of classic Guerlain. I'm smelling it now. I can see this being headache inducing or inducive because there's something in there that's very heavy. It doesn't smell heavy long term. You don't keep on feeling the heft of, you know, certain fragrances that we deem cloying, or we use the terminology to describe the adjective cloying. This isn't like that. It's not cloying. It doesn't scream ahead of you entering the room. It doesn't enter the room before you enter the room. But to the wearer, to whoever is wearing it itself, to them, or to us, or to me right now as I'm wearing it, it can have this side effect of, we could redefine it and call it a close-up cloy, close-up cloying aspect to it. And I know that because I've been reading what other people have been writing about it, their opinions in these past 2 hours as I was letting it develop on my skin. And some people do consider it to be very unappealing, unbearable. A lot of them attribute this to the apple. I don't attribute this to the apple. I personally don't think the apple here is so intense. And by cloying, you know, listen, I think Shalimar, let's move this away. Shalimar is a very cloying fragrance, especially in the eau de parfum form, right? But it doesn't induce any headaches, to me at least. It doesn't give me any headachy vibe. It's completely, it's just perfect. This one isn't cloying like this one. And the apple, to me, is, if there ever really was any to smell out in the first place, to my nose, it's by now gone, completely gone. And some days, I have a suspicion that this one, on some days, can be so beautiful on the skin, depending on if it's, you know, too humid enough or too warm enough outside. All of these factors play a role. Your hormonal balance that day, your mood that day, what you're wearing that day, because clothes play a role as well. The material of the clothes that you're wearing play a role as well as the chemicals used to color the clothes, because those play a huge role in the way we perceive smells and in the way we're in the mood or not in the mood on that day. So everything plays a major role. We are highly susceptible beings to slight shifts and changes of everything around us and within us. We don't realize it. We tend to kind of float and rush through our days without even thinking about certain things because society kind of forces us to do it. You're running from a job to a job, from school, home, buying food, cooking, eating, rushing, appointments, and we really are losing touch with our core. We are highly spiritual beings, and we are highly susceptible to all sorts of shifts and changes. And to me, perfume really allows us to anchor ourselves back to our core and think for a moment, you know, stop for a moment and think about what it is that influences us, what it is that creates a certain mood for us, what it is that drives our spirits forward or backward. And with L'Instant, it's like, actually, I haven't really spoken about the name, the instant. Fascinating that I haven't mentioned it at all, and yet I've been talking about an instant in time this whole time while I've been reviewing the first impressions and now the dry down of this fragrance. It is all about an instant, and it's about catching that instant. And I don't know if Guerlain's creative team, whoever chose this title for this name for this perfume, if they thought about this actively or not, but consciously, I mean, or not. But it definitely feels as if you catch the right instant when to apply, when to use this fragrance, you will be very pleasantly surprised buy it and you will enjoy it. But then there are those other instants when it's really off. You got to catch the moment, you know, carpe diem in the purest of perfume ways. Fascinating that it turns so peachy when put in front of a rose background, and how it looks rosy when put against light. Anyway, it's all about the instant. It's about catching that instant. And for me, today, the instant is kind of partially right. I am liking it a lot, I have to say. But I do feel as though this one will be tricky to me. It's not something I crave. It's not a smell that I crave. It's not something that when I wake up in the morning I go for. I go to it and I crave it. I will crave the shape of this bottle, which, by the way, I wrongly suggested that this was Napoleon's Josephine's bottle. No, we're talking about, and I will correct this in the beginning of the video. You will see probably I'll write a text on top. But just to reiterate, it was Eugenie's bottle, and it was Napoleon III. Sorry about that mistake, my mistake. So Napoleon III and Eugenie. So, and these are the bees created for the Eugenie bottle, right? Okay, good. I've corrected my mistake. Off with Dacob's head, as they would have done back in the day for such a terrible mistake. Poor Napoleon III. How could I have ever called him Napoleon? So catching the right instant is important. It is actually with every fragrance, but I find it almost kind of funny, and I mean, it's ironic that they call this one L'Instant, because it does capture an instant, but it also makes you, it doesn't force you, but if you decide to purchase this fragrance, you will have to play with that instant. You will have to also find that instant for yourself. When is the right moment to wear this? And I do have a sneaky suspicion that I will be enjoying this in the coldest of winters and in the hottest of summers. By now, the heat of summer is gone, so I can't test this out in an extremely hot, dry scenario or in an extremely hot, humid scenario. For now, I have a relatively humid scenario with a lot of rains hitting my area, as well as, I would say, comfortable temperatures, you know, where you could layer clothes. I love layering clothes while wearing fragrances. Just fragrance on pure skin is not enough. I also like to have the nuance of the fragrance, how it develops on the fabric I'm wearing at the same time as it develops on my skin. They're different, you know, and all of those hues deliver different perceptions of the fragrance, and I love that. So in summer, when you're wearing almost nothing, it simplifies fragrances to me, and their fragrances are much more complex in winter, and that's why also we can wear heavier fragrances in winter, you know, because the weather allows it. The weather allows all those facets to develop, while in summer, a cloying heavy fragrance just kind of burns up and it's everything at once, and it's just such a chunk of something massive that is hard to bear and decipher, while in winter, it becomes easier because the temperatures and the weather allow it. So that's a fascinating aspect to consider as well. The deepest of dry downs here is an ambery vanilla. Very light ambery vanilla with the benzoin kind of scratching in the background, and the musks, synthetic musks scratching in the background, which does annoy me a little bit, I have to admit. It's not the best of vibrations of a fragrance, you know, but nevertheless, the powdery, and I'm a sucker for the powdery irisy tones, I will be using this one, and the colder it gets, I'll be using it more because I really want to experiment with it. And a lot of Guerlain fragrances in general really call for me when it gets colder, and they call for me when I'm in the mood for, and I'm not saying these perfumes smell old by no means, you know, I hate that. I hate when people define perfumes as old, or when they define them by gender. I really don't like that. But Guerlain fragrances in general have a key that unlocks in me that desire for ancient times, a desire to live them, a desire for a more noble approach and poetic approach to everyday life and routine. And when I am in that mood, then Guerlain is the best for me. And L'Instant will definitely deliver in that respect, even though it does not top Shalimar. Shalimar really goes the extra mile when it comes to my craving ancient ancient rituals. Sounds terrible. No, it's not about rituals. It's about more about ancient routine. That's a more subtle word for it. This one wins always. But this is like a modern interpretation of it. It is a perfume that you smell out has been composed in the early 2000s. It's very time specific. Unfortunately, this one does not kind of burst the bubble in terms of becoming timeless. It has a very time specific composition to it, which is also fine, but it might become tiresome to some of you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've liked this review. And if you have, please do thumb it up. And let me know what you think about L'Instant de Guerlain, the Eau de Toilette, and also the other two. This is the Eau de Toilette of Samsara and the Eau de Parfum of Shalimar in the comment section down below. Also, if you haven't already but wish to, consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also on Patreon, superdacob, all spelled together. And thank you so much to the patrons who have already pledged. You are helping me out a lot. That helps keep the channel going and growing. Also, be sure to check out Ask Dacob, my new YouTube series where you get to call in live and end up in my video while we talk and discuss all sorts of topics and questions you might have. So guys, I bid you farewell. See you in my next video. Until then, never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.